Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Courtside Soundoff podcast today. I'm Josh Evanoff. He's Angel Ortega. A lot of stuff to talk about today. NFL, NBA, MLB, UFC. Before we get into that, I want to talk to you about Fight Plus. Fight Plus provides a special selection of premium events for boxing, MMA, pro wrestling, and other combat sports events. Watch pay-per-view events from over 25 promotions 30 days after airing. Fight Plus includes organizations like Brave FC, Unified MMA, UC MMA, CCW, BKB, FSW, BCB Boxing, Kunlun, and much, much more. And they are available for your viewing pleasure. You can cancel at any time. If you guys want a 7-day free trial of Fight Plus, you can go through the links that are available on our YouTube page, our website, or anywhere you can find us. Last Saturday night, from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, the main event, Curtis Blades dominating Alexander Volkov over the course of 5 rounds, putting on a wrestling clinic, scoring a record, I believe, 15 takedowns over the course of 25 minutes, winning the scorecards 49-46, 48-47, 48-46. I thought that was a really, really nice scorecards for Volkov. I had it like 50-43 for Blades or something along those lines. Blades... Alexander Volkov legitimately had no highlights until the 4th round. I don't know if he landed a punch until the 4th round. But Angel, I know that you picked Volkov, and I know that you were actually kind of impressed with him, and I actually kind of was too, coming out of those 4th, 5th rounds. I expected Blades to run right through him, and he did for the first 15 minutes. The last 2 rounds, despite losing them arguably, Volkov still looked ridiculously good for, at that pace. He's a heavyweight. He weighs 250 pounds. He still put on a good pace. But overall, how impressed were you by Curtis Blades? Because even Dana White said after the fight that, listen, you can't talk all the trash that you did and look that way.
It was insane. I mean, he slammed him every time he wanted to, which is impressive because, Volkov's, 6'7", 200, 40-plus pounds. And he picked him up, 20-plus times, threw him to the ground. I mean, that takes a lot of energy. And the fact that, I guess that does impress me because let's say he didn't do it as many times as he did or attempted. Maybe he would have been better cardio-wise. Maybe he used it a little too excessively. Maybe that was his little downfall in the end, kind of pushing himself to go for that takedown because there's probably times he didn't have to go for it and he would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah, and he did whatever he did he did whatever he wanted to do for the better part of that fight. Up until the 4th and 5th rounds, whenever Blade started to get tired, which understandable because he's a heavyweight, worth noting that this is the heaviest Curtis Blades ever came in at, so that might have also played a role. But still, he did whatever he wanted for the first 15 minutes, which ultimately, propelled him to get the win. I gave him the first 2 rounds as 10-8s. Alexander Volkov had legitimately no highlights. I don't know if he landed a strike in the first 2 rounds. Eventually, in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, whenever Volkov was being taken down, he decided to throw elbows off his back. I know one or 2 judges gave him a round or 2, which is pretty ridiculous. The only round I gave Volkov was, I don't remember if it was round 4 or 5, but it was one of those 2 rounds. I believe it was 5. Round 4, Volkov in the final minute started landing some strikes, and got a takedown, which was hilarious. But he still only had a minute worth of highlights where he was on his back for the first 4 minutes of that round. But regardless, still a good win for Curtis Blades, and now he's in a position where he can't move at all. I don't even think he moved up to the rankings. He's still ranked 3rd in the division. He's on a 4-fight winning streak. Of his last, oh man, this is ridiculous. Of his last, I don't know how many fights, but since he's been in the UFC, his only 2 losses are to Francis Ngannou. That's so sad. He lost in his first fight in the UFC to Francis Ngannou. After that, he went on a 6-fight winning streak. Lost to Ngannou again. Since then, he's on a 4-fight winning streak. He's beaten Mark Hunt, Alexei Oleinik, Alistair Overeem, Justin Willis, Shamil Abdurrahimov, Junior Dos Santos, and now Alexander Volkov. Where does Curtis Blades go from here? Because obviously we're waiting on the DC Stipe 3 trilogy to happen not next month, the month after in August. But even then, Francis Ngannou is next in line after that. So what do you think's next for Curtis Blades?
Oh boy, I mean, I think it's dependent a lot of that Stipe and DC match. I feel like a lot of it, who ends up winning that? Because I feel like if DC ends up winning that, the going theory, I feel like not even just me, I feel like multiple people probably assume this is that he will retire. He will retire. He will end the trilogy, and then he will no longer be a fighter. Which I think it's a smart choice for him. He's got the title back. He had the trilogy fight. He's done it. He's done it all almost, right? He pretty much done it all. Defended the title. Did a bit of everything. Had his nemesis in the sport. Good deal. I'm out. I don't want there's these scary new bloods coming in. No risk here. We saw Blades, the wrestling. Maybe the striking isn't there, but at least could give some DC competition in the future. Ngannou, obviously, monster with the hands. And there's guys below that too, who are just as threatening, who might be getting better at this moment in time and can pose, just as big enough of a threat. And plus, DC is getting up there in age, and I'm sure it'll start to show against these younger guys. But as far as Stipe wins, I mean, I guess they have to make Stipe Ngannou, but that's going to be a while because I'm guessing that Stipe DC fight won't be a walkover for any of them because, I mean, it's the third time they're fighting each other. It's the third time they've learned from each other. Something has to change, right? So, I mean, I guess at that point, they probably give it to – they probably try to make Stipe Ngannou, which probably is going to take a year to make. So, Blade's probably on the back pedal again. Unless DC wins – which in that case, I'm guessing they would make Stipe, rebuild again, get a couple wins under his belt, and and set a title bout between Ngannou and then whoever they wanted, which could be potentially Blades.
Yeah, you said a lot there, and I and I agree. The thing about DC, if he wins, obviously, he said he's going to retire, but also DC said he's going to retire whenever he hit 40. And then he fought Derek Lewis, and then he fought Stipe, and then he's going to fight Stipe again. So I think DC, I'm not sure how reliable his word is, because now I think he's going to be 41 when he fights. He said he was originally going to retire at 40, and I think he's going to be 41. He might already be 41. So yeah, but I don't know if he'll be done, but if he's not done, obviously the winner of that has to face Ngannou, and if Stipe wins, he's going to have to face Ngannou. If DC wins, he'll probably retire. But the weird situation is if DC retires, and then, does Ngannou fight Blades? Does he fight? Because he's already beaten Blades twice badly. He's beaten the hell out of him twice. Does he face Stipe for a vacant title? But Stipe just lost to DC, and there's a lot of issues, and it's a lot of stuff that
he fights his kryptonite, Josh. He fights his kryptonite.
Who's his kryptonite?
Derek Lewis.
Oh God!
The only other man to beat Ngannou.
That is the funniest thing to me. Derek Lewis is the only other man to beat Francis Ngannou in the UFC. That is ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, you're right, and I think if they fought again, that's the only bad fight I'd want to book again. I'd love to see that fight again. And here's the thing: I think Derek Lewis is fighting. Oh man, he's fighting. Let me Google this real quick. Derek Lewis is fighting somebody soon, and I don't remember who it is.
Is he fighting?
I think he's fighting Oleinik.
That's what I was gonna say. I think he's fighting Oleinik.
Oh man, I think he beats Oleinik, and then we could potentially get a rematch.
Wouldn't that be beautiful?
That would be beautiful. I think he beats Oleinik, man. That's an awesome fight. That's August 8th. That is right before the title fight between Stipe and DC, so it works perfectly.
Good for a call out too. Dana White, give me that title shot.
For sure. But other stuff on the card to kind of chase back to the other card. Josh Emmett Shaneberger's put on a hell of a fight, man. Josh Emmett tore his ACL right at the beginning of the fight. So he's pretty much a one-legged fighter, but listen, that right hand did not leave. His ACL may have been gone, but that right hand was going nowhere. And he landed a lot of shots on Shane Burgos. And Shane Burgos was chopping down his legs the entire time. It was really just a power punch type of fight versus a guy who was kind of trying to just take out the legs, land more volume strikes. And in the end, in the third round, the big round that won Josh Emmett the fight, he knocked down Shane Burgos twice, secured the victory. Do you agree with the decision? Because I saw some people saying it should have been a draw. I saw some people say they gave Shane the first 2 rounds, which I don't think there's any wrong way to judge that fight. I thought the first round was kind of clearly Burgos's, but that's just my opinion. The strikes were very close in all 3 rounds, except for the third, which was pretty swayed in Emmett's favor. But how'd you score it?
I think, yeah, no, I thought Shane won that. Emmett, obviously the takedown, and kind of took over in that last round. I felt, uh, I need to watch that second round again, because I'm sure that was definitely a close round. But I guess that could set up the draw there. I don't know. I wasn't super up in arms about it just because it was a good fight. They put on a good show. It's hard to judge. I mean, who knows? I need to rewatch it. Definitely that's because I know those first one and that last one is set. It's just that middle one that kind of threw us all off that I think I would need to rewatch.
Yeah. I'm gonna rewatch it anyways because the fight was awesome. It's definitely fight of the night. It was an absolutely awesome fight. Great performance by both guys. Shane Burgos, I was a little bit afraid of his defense going in, and it ended up losing him the fight. I mean, he's very hittable, but he has such great body work and such great boxing, but it did not work out well, man. Like, you could tell he was kind of afraid to get in on Emmett and land a lot of those close body shots, which he normally does, which work with great effect with other guys. But at the same point, because he was afraid, he was more hesitant, he ended up eating more shots than he probably normally would have if he just fought his normal fight. But I scored it a draw. I got the first 2 rounds to Burgos, and I scored the third round 10-8 for Josh Emmett. But regardless, Josh Emmett getting the win. Big win now he's in a position where I think he's won 3 in a row. He's on the verge of a title shot. That ACL is going to put him back some months. But in that division, man, I mean, you look around, Korean Zombie, Max Holloway, and who were the other contenders? I mean, you've got some dudes, but it's like
you still got to get Brian Ortega in there, man. Even when he just got,
Brian Ortega's been out for 2 years though, and he lost.
They put a clean against him, but I feel like he's still there. He's still there.
Yeah, but you got you're in a position right now where Josh Emmett's on 3-fight winning streak. He's one of those guys. You put him in the conversation with Zabit, Yair, and Korean Zombie for contenders. So good win by him. Is there anything else on the undercard you liked? Because I thought this card was it was all right. There's some good performances.
Well, something I wanted to talk to you about, and it was something because it came up because it was literally the start of the night. Like, it was the weirdest start of the night. Yeah. Was the Austin Hubbard Max Roshkov whole situation, the whole debacle there? What'd you think?
Well, it's the weirdest thing I've seen, right? Because I'm seeing people from both sides, and they're both making really good arguments. Because if you guys don't know, right before the third round of Max Roshkov versus Austin Hubbard, actually, real quickly, let's set the scene. Austin Hubbard beat the hell out of Max Roshkov in the second round. First round is pretty close, but I believe
the judges had it for Austin, I think.
Yes.
I think they had, which, and you don't know that, going into the fight, obviously the whole argument there was, maybe Max snuck the round in and then they were trying to push Max to get that third round.
Yeah. The second round is where everything took a turn. People say he wasn't getting beat up that badly. If you guys watch that final round, Max Roshkov was getting beat up, man. Especially right before the horn sounded. The last minute of that round, we were in. I mean, round 2 was a 10-8. All judges scored it a 10-8 round. So people say, he wasn't getting beat up that badly. Yeah, he was. He was getting beat up pretty badly, and he was gassed. He was gassed after the first round because he took the fight on a couple of days' notice. So, I get it. Like, I'm not mad at the kid for gassing out, but you're making $12,000. You're the first fight of the card, and if he doesn't want to continue, because after the second round where he got beat up really badly, he said his corner, I counted, he said 9 times that he was done. That he was done. He was done fighting. He wasn't going to go out in the third round. So, I get it. But here's the thing, and why all the controversy happened, because his corner said no. They were like, no, Shane. No, Max. You're doing fine. You just got to go in there. You got to go for the takedown. You got to get the finish. No, you're not quitting. You're not quitting. And I'm using different language than what they used. The language they used was more dismissive. Like, no, stop saying that. No, you're not. No, stop. No, go in there, get the finish. Like, shut the fuck up. Go in there, get the finish.
Go for the Imanari roll.
Go for the Imanari roll. No, but they're just completely dismissing this kid who's very young, and I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong way. And I see people on both sides. I saw Ariel Helwani say it. Luke Thomas said it. I saw that the Anthony Smith actually said it. The Nevada State Athletic Commission said they're going to review the situation and maybe even pull the coach's license, the one that was talking to him, like refusing to say that he can quit.
Does he have a really good coach? Actually, an ex-fighter.
Yeah, I don't remember the guy's name. I think it's Robert Drysdale. Really, really good coach.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's who.
And Max Rochoff is one of his kind of pupils that he's kind of trained forever.
He lives with him, actually.
Yeah. So, but I don't know, man. Like it was a bad situation. I see some people are like, who was the one? It was Robin Black on Twitter, who was like, you can't talk about this if you're not a fighter. You guys don't understand the situation. Like Brandon Shaw was kind of on the similar situation with this. That like if you guys haven't been in that position, you don't really know what it's like. And I don't necessarily agree with that idea. I'm pretty sure somebody watching that kid was getting beat up really badly, and he fully intended to send him out there for him to take more punishment. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I mean, what did you think?
It's rough because they also said that in the past he'd had situations where he said he wanted out, and not necessarily. I think it was talking about wrestling. They weren't even, or at least the context of their reference was wrestling. It wasn't even MMA, because that's where his background is and kind of how he made his way into this, because he's a college wrestler. I'm guessing obviously he wrestled in high school, and how in the past coaches had to motivate Max to stay in there and to, carry on through it. But I mean, it's a weird situation, because obviously he was taking punishment, and in that final round he might have just been taking that, and obviously what you want to do is avoid any sort of lingering stuff in the future. So it's weird. I mean, in that moment, I definitely would have had to assess the situation. I obviously I saw what happened. I think, I can say that, but being there is different, I feel, in the moment, you have to make a call, you're making all our choices, you're putting this on the record, you're showing this to the public, there's a lot there. So I think I definitely would have had to be there, I think it's not the same me being here, being able to talk about it, assessing the whole situation, having all the context, speaking about it now. It's not like I know Max, I've trained him with Max, it's not like we had, X amount of weeks to prepare. Like, I don't have all that knowledge that, his coach may or may not have.
Yeah. I don't know, just my opinion. I didn't like it, but at the same point, I don't really want to. I don't want to take the guy's license away to coach or anything. Like, I feel like that might be a bit of an reaction, but at the same point, I did not like seeing that kid take.
There's plenty of other coaches who should have their license.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or should be threatened at least with the idea of it.
Yeah. So I did not like that. But was there anything else on the undercard outside of that situation that you want to talk about?
No, just that.
All right. Well, I gotta give a couple quick shout outs. Bobby Green, Clay Guida, absolutely awesome fight. If you guys did miss that one, it was an awesome fight between two vets of the lightweight division. Lauren Murphy, Roxanne Modafferi, heartbreaking fight. Roxy, future champion Roxanne Modafferi, losing a decision. Lauren Murphy's hands looked crisp though, man. Her boxing looked really, really great. Roxy she didn't look like the stronger fighter in there, and whenever a lot of her game is predicated off grappling, that's a problem. She got stunned in the second round, and she's not going to move down a lot from this, but Lauren Murphy, man, she's right in that position. She's number 4 in the flyweight division now, 3 wins in a row. I think the smart decision would probably be, her versus Cynthia Calvillo for the next title shot. I think that's what makes sense. But regardless, that is it was a tough fight for Roxy, but she'll be back. What else happened on the card? Tisha Torres getting a nice win. There was a couple of good wins in there, man. Bilal Muhammad Lyman Good was a really, really good fight. And then shout out to Justin James, the Guitar Hero, which is his nickname, knocking out Frank Camacho in 41 seconds. Frank Camacho is one of the most durable guys. The dude he's just a glutton for punishment, man. Like he's really hard to knock him out. And Justin James did it in all of, a couple seconds. So that's probably going to be Frank Camacho's last fight in the UFC, which kind of sucks, but in the end, damn good performance. Moving on to this Saturday night, I like this card even more than I liked last Saturday's card, man. The main event and co-main are about as good, but also weird as you're going to get in the UFC. The main event, Dustin the Diamond Poirier, the former interim lightweight champion of the world, taking on the rising Dan Hooker. Dustin Poirier, obviously, last time out, lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov, but before that, he was on, in my opinion, one of the greatest lightweight streaks we've seen in a long time. Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis, Jim Miller, and Eddie Alvarez again, all beaten by the Diamond. Dan Hooker, on the other hand, a guy who's moved up from featherweight, and he's a guy that people did not have high expectations for him. He's kind of a middling guy. Lost to Yair, lost to Jason Knight at featherweight, moved up to lightweight, and since then he's been on a tear. Ross Pearson, Mark Chikasi, Jim Miller, Gilbert Burns. He lost to Barboza in December of 2018, but since then, knocked out James Vick, beat Ali Quinta, and beat Paul Felder, albeit very controversially. The winner of this has to be in that conversation to be one of the top guys at lightweight. I mean, they're both top guys at lightweight, but be in that title conversation. Who do you got, man? I think this is about as good of a fight you're gonna get, and over the course of this year.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna go with Dustin. I'm gonna run it back with Dustin.
What's your rationale?
I feel that Dustin performs better against Paul Felder rather than what Dan did against Paul. Even though it's no discredit to Paul because he's a great fighter, but it was a split decision. Always it's a close fight. Things happen, right? Obviously nothing's exact in MMA. No perfect MMA math. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's I feel like maybe he's not like crazy technical striker, but he's I think he's really good enough. On the ground he's not Habib, but he can put on a good show. I mean, there was a couple times in there where he was with Habib that I thought, oh, okay, this isn't looking that bad, but it didn't lead to anything, sadly. And there's something, and plus that he beat Max, he got the interim title, and obviously the Max fight was close. I felt like it was close,
Same.
I just, for some reason, I have more faith in him. I feel like he's fought better competition recently, beat the better guys. He beat Gaethje. Gaethje's like about to fight Habib now. And then with Dan, I feel like, there's a good build-up, but it's like, I feel like he hasn't fought like the level of guys Dustin has to impress me yet. And maybe this is a shot right here to prove me wrong and be like, here it is. This is what I'm capable of.
Yeah, I'm also going to ride with Dustin on this one. I just think Dan Hooker's a tough out, man. He really is. I feel like I'm pretty sure Dustin's a pretty sizable favorite, but Dan Hooker's a really tough guy. He has a lot of great attributes. Really, really good kicker. Very, very tough guy. Very durable. He's huge for the lightweight division. You don't realize it. I think he's only listed at 6 feet, but I feel like he's taller than that. He just has a lot of size to him. But I feel like he kind of has a bit of a deficiency in the grappling department. I feel like Dustin's boxing is significantly better. He's much more durable. And overall, I'm just gonna ride with Dustin on this one. I feel like his striking is levels above Dan Hooker right now, and that's not to say Dan Hooker's a bad striker, but I feel like Dustin Poirier is just significantly above him. I'm gonna ride with Dustin Poirier, probably via decision. But regardless, I think that's gonna be a banger of a fight. Now for the people's main event, Andrew, I know you and I are particularly excited about this one.
Only us, literally only us. No one else cares.
Oh, for sure, man. Mike Platinum Perry, the people's champion, riding with corner woman.
God,
weekend.
You sexist piece of shit. Don't make me cancel you.
I know. The one corner woman this weekend for Mike Perry is his girlfriend, who apparently has no MMA cornering experience.
She's perfect, though.
She's perfect. She's, in the words of Mike Platinum Perry, she is she's a tough chocolate chip peanut butter cookie. Never had a chocolate chip peanut butter cookie, but I'm sure they're tough. Yeah, man. Mike Perry at one point was one of the rising guys in the welterweight division. He's kind of turned into more of a meme. I mean, he was always a meme, but now it's getting more and more into meme territory. At one point, he was 4-1 in the UFC, beat Jake Ellenberger, beat Danny Roberts, and ever since then, he's been on the bit of a bad streak. He lost to San Diego Ponzinibbio. That fight was awesome, though. He lost to Max Griffin, which was a layup for him. He beat Paul Felder, which is a damn good win. Paul Felder took that fight on like a week and a half notice. He moved up to welterweight for it. And then he faced Cowboy Cerrone, lost via submission. He beat Alex Oliveira, which was a very good win. Still a very good win. And then he lost to Vicente Luque via split decision. I thought he won that one. And then he got knocked out by Jeff Neal, the only time he's been finished via strikes. Now we go to Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall is the meme man in the UFC. They're fighting for the meme championship of the world, okay? Mickey Gall came into the UFC with a lot of hype behind him. He was 2-0 and he was 1-0 in MMA. He's a very accomplished grappler, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under David Adi in Greenbrook, New Jersey, Gracie, New Jersey. He's been training for a long time. He's training for ever since he was a kid. He's 6'2". He's a huge 170er. All right. Came into the UFC. He faced Mike Jackson in a fight to face CM Punk. Turns out both of them would end up facing CM Punk down the line. But regardless, he ended up beating Mike Jackson. After that, he faced CM Punk and dominated and finished the former WWE champion, which was a huge win because, CM Punk was a former world heavyweight champion and they were fighting at welterweight. That's a huge deal. And then, so jokes aside, the big win that got Mickey Gall on people's radar as they're thinking, oh, damn, this kid really might be something, was the Sage Northcutt win. Sage came into the UFC with a lot of hype. Sage was more accomplished in the UFC at that point. Sage was the younger guy, but it was like whenever that fight happened, they were like the co-main event of a Fox card, and all the hype transferred from Sage to Mickey. And then Mickey took a year off, and then he came back, lost to Randy Brown in a really bad fight. Not bad in terms of he looked bad. It was a competitive fight, but it was really, really boring. He did a lot of fouls. It was a really dirty fight by Mickey. He was like grabbing the cage, he was grabbing the shorts, doing all sorts of dirty shit. He came back, beat George Sullivan, and then in one of the most embarrassing losses ever, he lost to the 39-year-old Diego Sanchez, who's about as shot as one can be at this point, and then he beat Salim Torrey in August of last year. One has to think the loser of this fight gets cut, right? Like, and this is about as big of a meme fight as you're going to get, man. I've referenced that a lot of times, but they're on the poster. Neither one of these guys are very good. Mike Perry literally doesn't have a corner, and Mickey Gall is a guy who's come in with a lot of hype, but has turned out to his best wins are against guys who barely train, an overhyped prospect, and a former WWE guy. So, like, he's still a name.
At least Mike Perry beat Paul Felder.
That's a damn good win. Mike Perry has some really good wins. So I ask you, who wins in the battle of the meme fighters at 170? Mickey Gall, who doesn't have a nickname. I was about to reference a nickname. He does not have a nickname. So Mickey Gall or Mike Platinum Perry.
The thing is, it's like, I feel like for the betterment of the sport, Mike should win to save at least one meme. You know what I mean? He should win. Because at least Mike can beat someone, better. But they're both kind of on the same boat where they're kind of both like one bag of tricks. Like, Mickey's only got the ground game, nothing too special on the hands, and Mike's really good on the hands, but nothing on the ground. Or at least it's been abysmal. Never really showed anything there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, Mike Perry, for not having that good of ground game, or any ground game, to be realistic, has been submitted only once in the UFC via armbar by Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who's a really good, who has really good jiu-jitsu, and is now fighting Mickey Gall, who might have better jiu-jitsu, so this doesn't give us a lot of faith. Something. No matter what, I'm still gonna put the boy Mike Platinum Perry. If he can tone him up on the feet, I'll just be smart, get to that cage, avoid the takedown, and roughing him up a little bit and avoid anything like that. God, it'd be great. Or who knows? Maybe Mike just turned into a fucking god and is just an amazing, wrestler now and could throw Mickey on the ground and ground pound his ass. I don't know. That's probably not likely, but wouldn't that be beautiful?
All right. You gave good analysis there. Like you said, Mickey kind of a one-dimensional guy. He's a damn good grappler, man. Like people underestimate just how good of a grappler Mickey Gall is. He was a guy who's won multiple Naga competitions, multiple grappler quest titles, black belt. He's been training in jiu-jitsu since he's been 13 years old. He's as close to as you're gonna get as like a top tier guy, right? And that's why he submitted a lot of guys without having much of a striking game. But his striking has been getting better over time. I thought, again, the Diego fight specifically, he looked pretty damn good on the feet, and we know he has power. He dropped Mike Jackson. He dropped Sage Northcutt. He beat Salim Torhi whenever that fight was entirely on the feet, and Salim's been a guy he's not very good either, but Salim is very much a middling guy. He's a guy who fills out the welterweight undercard. He just fills out the undercard in general. But, he's not terrible, right? But Mike, I feel like we're going to see, this is one of those fights where I feel like we're going to see there's levels to this shit. Because Mike Perry has lost a lot of fights lately. Yes, he's without a corner. His girlfriend is coaching him, and she has very little to no experience, right? According to Mike, she's had some boxing and wrestling experience, but I highly doubt she's going to be able to provide anything of substance in the corner. But even though all that I just said, Mike Perry at one point was still a top 15 welterweight in the world. Not that long ago. Not that long ago at all. I thought he beat Vicente Luque in August of last year. It was a split decision. That was a hometown decision for our boy Vicente Luque.
It was a fat win streak right now.
Yeah, and Vicente Luque is one of the top guys in that division. And before that, he beat Alex Oliveira. He's beaten Paul Felder, who's a top 5 lightweight on the planet. All right, he's knocked out a lot of good dudes in the UFC. And at the end of the day, Mike's not the greatest on the ground. He has no corner. I don't think it matters. I really think he's gonna beat him, man. I think he's gonna. I don't know if he'll stop him. I think there's a legitimate possibility of that. But I feel like we're going to see there's levels to this shit. And I feel like we're going to see that Mike Perry, even without much training, is levels above what Mickey Gall is at this point in their career.
Or without a corner.
Yes, without a corner.
God.
I just don't see it going well for Mickey Gall. I mean, I could see Mickey Gall winning. I feel like if Mickey's going to... Even then, Mickey gasses out, man. I was about to say, if Mickey goes out and takes him down and starts to gas out Mike with the ground game, but, at the same point... Mickey gasses out ridiculously. He has a terrible gas tank. You remember the Diego Sanchez fight? He was dead after 4 minutes. So it's probably because he cuts a lot of weight, but Jesus Christ. Gotta
get on that bike, bro.
He does. Man, I love this fight. I'm super excited for it. Is there anything on the undercard you want to talk about?
Let me give it another gander. I had it here a second ago. Boy. Who do we got here? We got our boy Violent Bob Ross is back, baby. Get it. Let's get it. Fighting. How do you feel about his matchup?
Kamal Worthy. Kamal Worthy is a guy with a lot of punching power, but it still remains to be seen how good he is. He had a really good upset his last time out. He was a huge underdog. I don't remember the guy he was facing, but he's a huge underdog. I think he could be Violent Bob Ross. Violent Bob Ross is super hittable, but I think I'm going to side with Violent Bob Ross. He's just the more accomplished guy. He's the more seasoned guy at this point.
Dude, what is it called? Conor Worthy was supposed to fight Michael Johnson. That would have been a great test of his skills.
Oh man, I think Mike Johnson beats him. I feel like that's too much.
Oh, wouldn't that just be worthy of Michael Johnson, though?
Yeah, for sure.
There we go. I feel like I'm sure there's more stuff here. We'll see it next week. We'll talk about it next week. We'll come back and we'll have something good to rebuttal on.
Yeah, but there is one fight I really do want to mention. Kay Hansen, Jin Yu Fry. My girl Kay Hansen finally got the call to fight in the UFC. I've watched almost, I don't know if it's all of her pro fights, but the vast majority of her fights. She's still only 20, and she finally got the call to get into the UFC. I've told people for a while now. I've seen her fight, man. She has so much potential. She really, really does. She's fought in Invicta since 2017. She's been 18, bro. And she's looked damn good. She's on a 2-fight winning streak. She's won 3 of her last 4. And I thought she won that fight that she lost. It was a split decision to Magdalena Saramova and Invicta Phoenix Series 1. She's still only 20. She's training out of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu in California under Eddie Bravo and a lot of those guys. And I told people, man, I told her, this girl's going to be something good one day. Maybe she's getting the call a bit soon. She's still only 20. But, I told you specifically, every single time she fights in Invicta, I've always told people, watch this girl. She's going to look damn good. And Angel, you saw her live last time out at Phoenix Series 3 in March. She has really good grappling. Her grappling is ridiculous. It's only getting better. And if she puts on some size and works on her striking a bit, I feel like it should be really, really good. But regardless, she's taking on Jin Yu Fry, and this is kind of like an Invicta mini super fight in a way, because Jin Yu Fry was the former atomweight champion for Invicta, and then Kay Hansen was one of the top contenders at strawweight. And Jin Yu Fry is moving up to strawweight. She was really, really big for 105. And she was a long time atomweight champion. She was a champ since 2018. Beat Mina Grusander, beat her again in the rematch. Which those two fights are some of the greatest fights in Invicta history, honestly. Especially the second one, I thought was a phenomenal fight. I watched that one live. I don't remember if it was the first fight I covered live or it was one of the first ones in the main event. She fought in Ryzen. She ended up losing to Asha Hamaski in a rematch. Hamashi beat her the first time around, actually, in Invicta, but she ended up recovering with the win over Ashley Cummins to retain the Invicta atomweight title in February. Now she gets to call to face Kay Hansen. She got that call in a week's notice. That's a really, really tough fight. I'm not sure who's going to win that one. I think I'm going to side with Kay Hansen, though, man. That girl has so much potential. I've told everybody how great she's going to be one day. Her record doesn't look that impressive. It's still only 6-3, but when you're fighting at Invicta, which pretty much just one step below the UFC, since she's really been fighting this entire time, she's going to be great. I've told people for a long time she has lots of potential, and now she's fighting the UFC. So, yeah. But that kind of wraps up UFC Vegas 4. That's what's happening this Saturday night. I'm really pumped for this card. I'm really pumped for the main and co-main, and obviously that little Invicta kind of mini super fight in a way happening on their card. Really quick, something we're going to talk about some stuff that we don't normally talk about, and it's MLB and NFL really quickly. And the reason we're talking about this is because it kind of relates to, and it's kind of like a betting game in a way. The MLB is supposed to be officially returning in July. I believe July 24th is the date. I don't know how all it's going to work out. I believe it's still working on safety protocols and stuff. I'm not sure where it's going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen in Arizona, I think. Which is funny. There's going to be no crowds. I mean, do you care about this news at all?
I mean, it's exciting because, I mean, in a sense, we're going back to, what would be normal, but not really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
All right. Well, here's the part that I think is interesting. Because I talked a couple of weeks ago about how the MLB might not have a season, and they're going to have a 60-game season, which is really, really short. As you guys know, it's 182 games, which is really, really stupid and ridiculous, and it's why I feel like baseball's dying in this country, because 162 games is ridiculous. But regardless, 60 games, probably wrapped up by October or November, which is fine with me. No crowds to be allowed, most likely, God forbid. But here's the most interesting part, and it kind of relates to, I'm going to jump into the NFL. The NFL, if you guys haven't been following, they've had their hands in this, like their heads in the sand this entire time. It is June 25th as we are currently recording. The NFL is still expecting, they are currently still selling tickets. They are still expecting to do everything as normal. And apparently they are allowing owners to choose the capacity at which they can have crowds. It's worth noting that some of the states, they're still not sure if they're going to allow games to even be played in their state. And NFL teams are huge. It's not a situation of basketball teams. Part of the reason why basketball and baseball teams are fine because there's less people. Now, Angel, you probably know this better than I do. How many people on a basketball team? 15?
Plus the bench. I've never even really thought of it. That's probably about the right number. I think you're right.
I believe it's 15 because you got 5, and then there's probably like 8 more who are probably active to play, and then you got a couple dudes that aren't even active.
Yeah. I was about to say 20 would just be too much. Yeah, so 15. I think 15 is the right number.
I believe according to 2K it's 15, so I'm gonna roll 15. And then you got some coaches, which I'm not sure how many coaches there are.
Yeah, a lot of people though on the sidelines that you don't even know who the hell they are.
Exactly, but they can cut down on a lot of those people, right? And they could cut down on some coaches, and you probably keep them in some other location to coach as well. But it's a lot more manageable. In baseball, a similar situation. You got probably a roster of a couple 20 or so people, 20 to 30 people. You got some coaches. But there's not that many people. The NFL, there is 53 people on a given roster, there's a practice squad of 15 people. There's coaches for every single position, and there are 22 positions in football. It's not viable, and that's what we're seeing already, because the Hall of Fame game, which is scheduled for August 6th in Canton, Ohio, just got canceled this morning. But they're still expecting to have fans in some capacity for the start of the season, which happens in September. I'm not even going to ask you on what's the percentage of this happening, because we both know that that's not going to happen. I'm going to ask you, how likely is the NFL season to occur at all? Because the longer they go on with pretending everything is fine, is the worse it's going to get whenever the season gets closer.
I think it's a good 30-70, like 30% chance it happens, 70% it doesn't. Yeah. Well, that's a pretty realistic breakdown. Maybe you can argue 40-60, but even then, I feel like you're kind of pushing it because of everything going on.
Yeah. And it's important to remember that states like California, which house multiple NFL teams, they're not expecting to have sports until November. So I don't even know what they're doing. Like, I have no clue what the NFL is doing. If I were to guess, I'd give it, of the season occurring at all, I'd say probably around 30. In its current state, 0%, like 0.1, because it seems like America has kind of given up. Like, they're just kind of not acknowledging the coronavirus is still happening, that we're still in the midst of a pandemic. Like, which just seems like we're kind of ignoring that this whole thing's happening, which means it's only going to get worse. But if you cut down on testing, if you don't look, it's not there. So, which has been America's kind of the whole thing for the situation. So I'd say for the 0.1 is in that situation where we kind of get more desensitized to it even happening. So, who even knows? The really quick thing to add on to this, and it's kind of, I'm only adding it on because it's just NFL news that's also happening, and since we mentioned NFL, I thought it was interesting. Colin Kaepernick, who's been out of work for 1,200 days, is expected to get signed. Multiple NFL teams are expected to be looking into him that might sign him. I know you're not super educated on the NFL, so I'm not going to ask you on his actual, how much he could help a team. I'm going to ask you, do you think this is, on a scale of like 1 to 10, that this is the clearest PR move of all time?
110%. 110%.
I mean, with all that's going on right now, it's totally not a coincidence. Like, he's been out of work since 2016, and now, right in the middle of this whole movement, teams want to sign him. And it's not even like he's a bad quarterback. Like, I've told people if somebody says Colin Kaepernick's a bad quarterback, they are willingly being ignorant. I mean, people say that all the time, that, like, this quarterback's bad. So, I mean, I guess that makes sense, because people like to talk shit on every quarterback in the league. There's not a single quarterback in the league that people like. Like, everybody hates somebody. It's just one of those things. Like, it's the truth. Everybody's hated. But, like, Kaepernick, 72 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, 2 NFC Championship game appearances, 1 Super Bowl appearance. He holds multiple NFL records for rushing yards. And, he only played 5 years in the league. Like,
the dude's massive right now.
Yeah. But, like, he didn't play that much. But at the end of the day, he still put up great numbers. And even in his last season, where people said he sucked because the team went 1-10, if you look at that roster is terrible. Nobody on that roster was worth a damn. Like, I'm somebody who knows. I know my shit. There's not a single Pro Bowler on that team. Chip Kelly was fired from that team literally the day the season ended because he was a terrible head coach. They won 2 games the entire season, both against the LA Rams. Like, you look at that roster, most of those dudes aren't even in the NFL anymore. And you look at their IR list, it's the longest thing you'll ever see. And even then, with all that happening, he put up 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, almost 500 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. the dude was a good quarterback, and he was arguably getting better. Like he was still hitting his stride. I thought he was better in the year that they sucked than he was better than the Super Bowl year. So he should be signed. There are so many. I can name 7 worse quarterbacks than Colin Kaepernick who are currently in the league, and that's being really, really nice.
Let it out, Josh. Let it out.
I can name, dude. I can keep on naming dudes who are they're just complete. Joe Flacco looked terrible last year. He just got signed to a deal. You got the third stringer of every single team is worse than Colin Kaepernick. Chad Henne's signed to a team. We got there's dudes who literally never. Chase Daniel is a worse quarterback than Colin Kaepernick. I'm not trying to be mean here, but I'm just saying the truth. David Fales is worse than Colin Kaepernick. Okay, it's the truth, man. We're kidding ourselves if we think the Stu did not get blackballed. But whatever, that's just my rant. I like talking about the NFL, but I'm going to do it that much. To kind of move on to the other sports league, which will happen because the NBA is a lot smarter than the NFL. Is the NBA, the National Basketball Association, coming back next month, July 30th. We are almost a month out at this point, something like 5 weeks out. Players should be reporting to camp really soon, next week, right? I think. And then we'll get a really, really short preseason, which I don't know when that's going to start. I'm not even sure it's going to be filmed. I don't actually know. But we're starting to see, remember, playing was optional, so we're starting to see players come out and say that they're not going to play. Of those, Avery Bradley, Trevor Ariza, and David Bertans not playing for the rest of the year. Others are expected to be announced, or others are expected to still say they won't. But apparently, the biggest news, real quickly, before we move on to the coolest news of the day, and then some of the more sad news of the day, what do you think about the players that aren't playing? How much do you think that's going to impact their teams?
Those are guys who are role players, but Trevor Ariza is currently on the Wizards, not even in play. Are they even in the playoffs right now?
Isn't Trevor Ariza on the Suns?
No.
Wait a minute. I know David Bertans is on the Wizards. Ariza's playing for the Blazers. Excuse me.
He's on the Blazers. He got moved because he was playing for the Wizards early last season. I don't even know. This just goes to show how much players move.
He was on the Suns in the course of 2 years. He was on the Suns, Wizards, Kings, and then Blazers.
Well, there you go. I don't even remember that Suns run for some reason. I'm trying to remember. I guess that was so quick.
Yeah.
I think it was, but I just can't think of it. I guess he was there and did pretty good, but damn, that was quick. I don't know if I can remember that. Either way, though, those are all guys who are role players, but are important role players. Not no hate. But it's not like it's a Kyrie, or Giannis, saying they're not going to play.
Yeah, Kyrie's not going to play regardless, but he's somebody who's probably going to sit out.
It's not like Kyrie wasn't going to sit out before anyways.
Exactly. That's why it's not a big deal.
So there you go.
But the cool news of the day, Avery Bradley, he plays for the Lakers. He was a guy that said from the beginning that he's not going to play. Apparently his reasoning being that apparently one of his children is at risk, and I don't think he needs to give anybody an explanation. For David Bertans is not going to play because apparently he's in a contract year and he's playing really, really well. Why go back into 8 games where you might just tank your stats because everything's all weird? Trevor Ariza, he just wants to spend time with his kids. Avery Bradley's similar situation, so I don't blame those guys for not playing. I don't blame anybody who doesn't want to play. And I'm sure as time comes out, we're going to see more players who aren't going to play. We're seeing a lot of dudes getting signed to teams because, randomly, they're probably not. To my knowledge, those are the only 3 that have been announced that are not going to play. But we're seeing a lot of signings going on right now. So I'm very much assuming that we're going to see announcements in the coming days that players are not going to play.
I'm sure
one of those teams is the Lakers. Avery Bradley. He said he's not going to play. J.R. Smith was worked out right. People forget this. Right before the season ended, the Lakers were looking for somebody. They released DeMarcus Cousins. They released him. They were like, you know what, man, we'd rather just have a healthy guy on our roster at this point. You just tore your ACL. Actually tore it right before the season started, so Lakers kept him on there for a long time. But they should be like, all right, guy, we need somebody who's actually going to play. And they worked out J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters. They ended up signing with Dion Waiters. But yet here we are The Lakers need a guard. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, J.R. Smith is likely to be that guard. The Henny God is back, and he's playing with LeBron once again. Angel Ortega, does this make the Los Angeles Lakers the immediate favorite?
No, because the Clippers just signed an even more defensive threat. And Joakim Noah, we're about to.
We forgot to say. Oh my God, I forgot to talk about that. Yeah, they signed Joakim Noah.
Former all-team defensive player Joakim Noah. Also future NBA champ Joakim Noah.
Well, dude, could you imagine?
Life would be complete at that point for him.
This is a weird question. Do you think if Joakim Noah wins a championship, he might get into the Hall of Fame? Like real quickly. Hear me out. All right. Look at his accomplishments. All right. He is 2-time NCAA champion. Okay. He was an All-American in college. He's a 2-time All-NBA defensive first team, 1-time All-NBA defensive second team, former NBA defensive player of the year, All-NBA first team in 2014. He's a 2-time All-Star, and then you add a championship on top of that.
He's not. I can see the argument. I'll put it like that.
I really just blew your mind. I'm sure you thought that. I'm sure you thought no chance until I just listed all his stats.
I really forgot he was. I always want to say. I feel like I completely forget about the defensive player of the year because I always think it's just the defensive teams, and I wanted to say defensive player of the year, but I didn't want to be wrong. What if you got a Finals MVP, like an Iguodala type situation?
Dude, just wait.
Right, we don't know. Maybe he could just go off. Maybe he could just have like some Linsanity in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Anything's possible. I mean, I'm not trying to, make fun of the guy. Right?
Yeah, man, but I don't know. I'm really this year is going to be interesting because we're seeing a lot of teams signing dudes that like have not played for a while. JR's one of those guys. And then Joakim Noah's one of those guys. Who's a player that you're hoping to see signed?
Oh, Jamal Crawford.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's ridiculous that this man was never signed.
I'm surprised.
Like, I mean, didn't he play for the Suns last year?
He did.
How good was he? I've heard some people say he sucked, but he's
pretty good. He's pretty good, but you also got to take account the man's like 40 years old.
He's actually 40. He's a man. He's 40. But, like, legitimately, actually.
But he's still like a really good. He can still run a roll and like do pretty good. Like for a 40-year-old guy, I feel like he's doing more than Vince. No hate to Vince, but at least which
we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah, I feel like he was generating more than Vince at his old age.
Yeah, especially as a scorer.
Nothing too crazy, but he
put up 50 as a 39-year-old.
He did. But
personally, I'm hoping to see Isaiah Thomas get signed.
Aren't they in talks about that? Isn't some team or hasn't the team already done that?
Not to my knowledge. I know he got released by the Wizards out of nowhere, which I thought was strange because I thought he was one of the better scorers on that team. Like he got released halfway through the season, like for no reason.
No, I mean, it sounds like something the Wizards would do.
Yeah. Apparently, I just saw this apparently happening. Teams are trying to push for at least one family member or friend in the first round of the playoffs because we know that the second round of the playoffs there's going to be family members / friends, and then we know in the regular season there's going to be none of that. So maybe we'll have some sort of simulated environment, hopefully. But yeah, I saw teams are pushing for that. To kind of wrap up the podcast with some final news, Vince Carter officially announced. He said he was unsure, right? He said if the back in March, he was unsure if he'd come back for another year because if the season ended up getting canceled or if it ended up being shortened or whatever, he was unsure. He's made up his mind, and Vince Carter, at the age of 43, after 22 seasons in the NBA, he announced his retirement this morning. What is your first reaction? Personally, I was hoping he's going to come back for one more year, but I'm not going to. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He's played 22 years. He's a surefire Hall of Famer. What was your first reaction to hearing that he was going to officially retire?
I mean, it was if he felt like it was time, it was time. I mean, he gave us so many highlights. Veteran of the sport. Played longer than he probably should have. Sadly, never won a ring. Took on small contracts to keep playing, and very little playing time to commit. And it is what it is. I mean, his whole life up until this point has probably been basketball competition every day, and he finally gets to get away from that and just live a normal life.
Yeah, so we're happy for him. But let me ask you, what is your favorite Vince Carter moment?
The Olympic dunk.
Yeah, it's always going to be that, isn't it?
Probably. It's pretty devastating. Gets the steal, runs up, jumps over the dude, 7-footer, dunk of death. Kind of disgusting. Has multiple, but that might be the greatest dunk of all time in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it is personally. Really quick, underrated Vince moment is, I believe it was this year or last year, he played an hour for the Hawks. It was like a double or triple overtime game, and he actually played a straight up 62 minutes. So the man, even at his old age, was doing ridiculous shit. This year his stat line wasn't that impressive this year. 5 points a game, one assist a game, and 2 rebounds. Nothing insane, but still, overall, he's a future Hall of Famer. One of the best players. He helped usher in the basketball in Canada, help make it into what it is today. That it has more fans. And he was a big part of raising the popularity in Canada for basketball. But thank you, Vince. Absolutely insane career. And it's kind of ridiculous that we were able to witness part of it because he played longer than what we were alive. But yeah, man. So shout out Vince. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up today?
No, I mean, except the NBA draft would have been today. 5 years ago today, Devin Booker was drafted future NBA champ, future Finals MVP, future MVP, future everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, very, very, very depressing, but we'll have basketball back in some capacity relatively soon, and then after that we'll have the draft and all that stuff. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for listening. As always, Courtside Soundoff available on YouTube, Podbean, anywhere you can find a podcast. You can find us Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the whole nine. At Courtside Sound 1 on Twitter, Courtside Soundoff on Instagram, Facebook, which we don't really use, but if you guys want to follow us there, you're allowed to do that. We've been having some killer numbers this month, and even the month before that as well. Since sports have returned, we've been doing really, really good viewership-wise. Thank you guys for listening. As always, I'm at Josh Evanoff on Twitter. He's at __1 if you guys want to follow us and boost our shit there as well. Thank you guys for listening as always. It means a lot, so peace and butt grease. Mouse click.